Welcome, Sojourners, to the Women's Leadership Mindset Series presented by Teresa K. Page, LLC. My name is Teresa Page. I am your host and looking forward to spending these next few moments with all of you. We have a lot of work to get done on today, but first, allow me to invite you to connect with me by subscribing to my website and YouTube channel. Connect and follow me on LinkedIn, and always feel free to contact me directly via email at teresakpagellc@outlook.com. So what is our goal? Well, as an author, speaker, coach, and mentor, my mission is to help professional women renew their leadership mindset with fresh fire and purpose through the mediums of leadership development and coaching services. However, the Women's Leadership Mindset Series is a new initiative intended to spotlight powerful women leaders and how they serve the world through their professions and purpose. So with the goal to help women realize their unfulfilled dreams and re-energize the leaders they always were, this platform is designed to enhance, empower, educate, equalize, and even emancipate, as our special guests share their entrepreneurial stories, provide valuable resources, and guidance in a caring, professional, and impactful manner. So, let's get down to business. Well, all right. In today's video, it is my pleasure to welcome to my virtual stage Polina Ruvinsky, founder and CEO of HypeHQ of Seattle, Washington. Polina is the founder of HypeHQ, the headquarters where women help women build their visibility. Building on her background as a leader and software engineer for iconic brands like Disney, ESPN, and Rosetta Stone, Polina's passion for empowering women in tech communities ignited the spark for HypeHQ. Today, she's dedicated to fostering a vibrant ecosystem where women unlock new opportunities, build meaningful connections, and celebrate collective triumphs. Beyond her role as founder, Polina is a mentor, a proud mom, and an avid traveler, walking the talk of HypeHQ's mission every day. So to contact Polina, you may reach her on her website at hypehq.io. You may also connect with her via email at support@hypehq.io, and also connect with her on social media via LinkedIn at Polina-Ruvinsky. We'll bring all of this information along with Polina's free gifts before we go. But first, I want to say, welcome, Polina. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Teresa. I'm so excited to be here and just I've admired you and I'm happy to be here talking with you, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm so excited about our conversation on today. But before we want to jump in, I want to give a quick shout out to Denise Renee for actually inviting me to one of your HypeHQ networking events not too long ago. And that's where we had the opportunity to meet. So there is power with connecting fellow entrepreneurs with other entrepreneurs in an effort to be able to collaborate and experiences just like this. So I'm really excited. So we're going to go ahead. We're not going to waste time. We're going to go ahead and get right down to business. So Polina, why don't you start by telling us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for shouting out Denise Renee. She is such an amazing member of our community. And actually, that was the first time I was introduced to you, is when you spoke on her podcast. So the collaborations that you're talking about, I think, are so meaningful. I get so excited when I see people in my community, or we kind of have that network effect where we collaborate beyond those lines. So thank you so much. So about me, my background is in software engineering, as you said, and I did find that work accidentally. I was searching. I've always been kind of an explorer, just trying to figure out what my path is. I'm not someone who sets the 5-year goal and just stays on that path. I'm more of, when something really draws me in a direction, I get excited, and it breeds more like energy and creativity in me. And so that's something I've really learned about myself. So even software engineering, I found like that, and it turned into a 20 plus year career during which I also found I really didn't think of myself as a leader when I started. It was just something that I like solving problems. I found myself in that environment. And all of a sudden, it was like I was the one stepping in to say, like, okay, we've got this, or like, let's do it this way, or even being asked later to be a lead, or and then later encouraged to go into management. So it was really something that I found in this career that I didn't realize that I had, to be perfectly honest. And then the seed that you also mentioned in the intro for starting a women's community also came from something I learned during this career. And there was a point at which someone was creating these events for women to get together, and love these events, right? I spend my days at the computer and I'm doing my thing. And then all of a sudden, here's this opportunity to connect and learn from each other, and you feel so inspired. And I just was like, they need to create more of those events. And then crickets, right? No one did it. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, why don't they just do it? Why doesn't somebody create more of these events? And then you know what happened, right? I was like, oh, wait, I can be that person. And
Like,
it took a little time. And then I just realized, okay, wait, I can be that person. I want to be that person. And once again, I found this leadership side of me that I didn't even know existed. And I just felt so fulfilled during that work that later, when I started to question, do do I really want to stick with this career that I have? And in ways, it was great for me. In other ways, it was a very male-dominated space. I was frustrated about how hard you had to work to always prove yourself over and over to in these spaces. And when I really started to wonder, is this really what I want to keep doing? It's kind of like taking my blood, sweat, and tears for something that I'm starting to believe in less and less. And at that point, the answer was, okay, I need to go back to this incredible feeling I had of bringing women together, and all of us learning and walking away better. And so, yeah, during the pandemic, I quit my job, and I wasn't sure what was next. I knew it had to be in this space, but I didn't know how to bring it to life. And I experimented with this and that. And then one day I was like, okay, that's it. I'm an entrepreneur now. Another thing I never saw in me before time. And so, yeah, so that's kind of the path that has led me here. And it's just been a journey. And I enjoy the windiness of it all.
that's really awesome, Polina, and thank you so much for giving us a little bit of insight. There was a couple of things that you mentioned that I had to jot down, and I want you to kind of lean into it just a little bit.
I love
You
it.
kind of seem to be like a kindred spirit of mine, where you mentioned earlier that your career was kind of like accidental. You're not necessarily like a 5-year plan. If it feels good, let's go and at least discover it. Can you share with us, the listening audience, why it's important to be open to accidental discoveries that can lead you into a path of purpose that can be, as in your case, at least 2 decades long? So, how important is that to be willing to lean into accidental discoveries to find your purpose?
Honestly, I think it's huge. And in some ways, that's another thing that I can see so much more clearly in the rear view mirror. And I think there was, at least when I was getting started, there was almost like a shame to not being that person of like, okay, I've laid it out in year one, I want to do this. In year two, I want to do this. And I actually really thought that I was lacking something, right? Before I came to see how following these things that were calling to me really led me to exactly where I want to be. And so this is why I think it's so important, because I truly believe that, you know, the things that are meant for us have an energetic pull. And then when you feel that pull, that is really your sign to get curious and learn more about what that is, because I guarantee this will never steer you wrong. It absolutely will not. I mean, don't do like crazy steps without understanding where it might lead you, but don't just ignore that feeling, because that's kind of like your path that's developing before your eyes. And for me, that's become so important. I've really embraced that about myself. And it's funny to think that, you know, some years back, I thought this was a flaw that I had.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. And there was something else that you said that as you later on in your career, and especially when you started attending these different types of events that was building community for women and all of that, and you wanted to see more of it, and you were waiting for somebody else to do it. But then you said, wait a minute, why not me? And it
Uh-huh.
helps you to step into a different space of leadership. Can you lean into that, the importance of um, and again, that's still a part of that accidental discovery, discovering the leader within that you didn't know that was already there. Can you lean into just a little bit more about that as far as what was your discovery, as far as the kind of leader that you believe that you are?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that really, for me, having that sense of mm, like love for the people that you're serving. So when you talked about love in leadership, and you know, for me, knowing that I can be a connector, that I can like, you know, like coach or mentor, or bring what I've learned to others, to even facilitate these connections between people, to give us all kind of a collective hope for the vision we can have as part of our community. I mean, these are all the things that, again, I found so fulfilling, and it was so far beyond this sense of like, why can't somebody just plan an event? And really recognizing that, you know, I don't have to ask people's permission. This was such an aha moment as well, to don't ask for permission, just do something, and then it will, again, the path will continue to unravel in front of you. And so for me, it was really like leading in a way that created connection among others and really benefited others. And I, I didn't even really know I had this sort of like altruistic mindset. I was a software engineer. I was there to, you know, build things, solve problems, sit at my computer. And then this entire new thing just unfolded because I took that step, right? Because I started to follow what was calling to me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there was one last thing, and we're going to move forward, but then I always like to go down bunny trails, so don't mind me.
Me too. As we're talking, that's very funny. Yes.
Yes. So thank you so much for taking this trail with me. There was something else that you said that was really important that kind of hit me in my chest a little bit about when you were in your career. You're starting to discover this or respond to this energy pool as far as creating a community for women to engage and to connect. But you were still at the same time starting to still working. And you made mention that you were believing in the organization a little bit less and less. Can you talk about the downfall of being in that space where you're with an employer, you're believing less and less in that experience? while you're being drawn to this new energetic, something very purposeful on the other side. Sometimes individuals, they don't lean into that and they'll stay where it is predictable and where it's safe and secure, as far as having that paycheck whenever and all of that, versus taking that path of entrepreneurship. But what can it do to a person to stay in that place and not respond to that energetic pull, to step into something that may not be as predictable, but is absolutely full of energy and purpose, versus staying someplace where they don't believe in, but it has a certain level of predictability? What would be the dangers of that?
I think, I mean, this is a complex question because obviously, we all have different responsibilities. We have our families or others that are depending on us, and we want a sense of security, right? And I think for most people, I think of it like as a continuum. You kind of have, security on one side, and then sort of this like freedom or adventure on the other side, and we fall in different places there. So I don't want to speak for anyone. I'm a person that once I see something, I can't really unsee it, and then I'm in my head telling myself like, okay, you gotta have the courage. Like I have to, as soon as my inner self is telling myself like, do you not have the courage to do this? Then it's like, okay, it's all over. Because then I have to be like, yes, I am gonna have the courage. So that's I know where I am, and I do tend to maybe take some risks that, sometimes I could have even taken a little more time. But to the question that you asked, like what can that do to someone? I do think that it's really like erosive. Like that's the first word that I think about when you said that. And they say now that most people, I don't know, the numbers are like maybe even 75%, something like that, of people are not engaged at their jobs at all. And so I think that's what happens when you're working for a company and maybe you're not feeling the trust for them anymore. You're not feeling like you admire them, that it's a place that's aligned with your values, and yet you kind of perhaps feel chained to that paycheck. And I think that's a really difficult place to be. I think it can really rob you of your engagement, your joy for life, because you spend so much time at work. And when it's something that deep down doesn't align with you, it's like a constant friction that wears away at you. And I think that, I am fortunate that I was also able to work that financially, because that's a reality. But for me, I just this feeling of am I going to just like waste day after day knowing this isn't for me, I couldn't do it. And so yeah, so I would really say to someone who's in that place is you need to really have a sense of self-awareness. You need to really understand, like, who are you? Am I able to shift on that continuum? Am I able to make this work financially? Which, by the way, I mean, we live in such a society that scares us with its scarcity. It's like this kind of like, you'll never have enough for retirement. Like, how often do we get this kind of message? Like, you're going to be all so. Also unraveling how much of that is actually true and how much of this is scare tactics. So really, I think if you're in that place, you have to do some very serious deep diving. And if you kind of choose just to turn a blind eye, then there is a cost to that, as we just discussed.
Absolutely. And thank you for giving us your insight there. I like the way you said, once I see a thing, I can't unsee it. So
Yeah.
absolutely. And I feel you there with that feeling of erosion and being robbed of your joy, as well as it can also make the organization suffer because an individual may no longer be engaged. And if you're not
So
engaged,
true.
then you can't meet the objectives as far as your role, and that can affect the bottom line of an organization. So it would probably
Absolutely.
even be a benefit to the organization for you to move on, for you to move on
Exactly.
as well.
Exactly. I mean, when I
Absolutely.
was, when I led teams and I had people on my team that I could see they were moving into that place, that to me is a sign to kind of say like, is there something else you want to explore? Like, how can I help you? Again, to like the coaching part of being a leader of people is how can I help you find something that's that alignment? I mean, don't you're absolutely right. A company shouldn't be fighting to hold on to someone who is not engaged because you can't do your best work when you're in that place.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for hopping down that bunny trail with me just to kind of lean into some of those other things. That was really awesome. So let's get into the business. Talk to us about this brand new energetic pool that you have stepped into and that you have created. So tell us more about Hype HQ.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, HypeHQ is all about women helping women grow their visibility. And the the idea is around how much power, which I believe that each one of us as women that we are so powerful, and in so many ways we don't really recognize it, or maybe we are maybe conditioned not to exercise that power because we're a lot of reasons, not going down that bunny trail, but but as a woman, I think you have so much power. And then what if we each used our power to help other women? So then I think it becomes a scenario where it's like 1 + 1 = 3, right? I think there's an exponential power to it. So I really wanted to explore that and how can I bring that into life, right? And what I was moving in circles at that time where a lot of women were saying things like, okay, I'm trying to create content, whether it's, a podcast, whether it's YouTube, whether it's thought leadership type of content. And they needed help to raise the visibility of the content that they were creating. And, there were these like engagement groups where people would normally kind of check out. And there wasn't a commitment that was coming out of like a mission of helping each other, right? It was more transactional. And so I was really trying to figure out how we could create something that brought those concepts together, right? This piece of like using power for each other and the piece of lifting up and amplifying each other's content. And so HypeHQ is a platform where you can ask for the engagement on whatever it is that you're creating. And then to make it more engaging, at least in theory, is we have like a point system and a leaderboard. So you can get into a little friendly competition of who's hyped the most other women. And so this was the concept, and I wanted to bring it to life pretty quickly just to try to start testing it, right? So in software engineering and product development, you always talk about like, okay, just get something in the hands of users, see what's working, see what's not working, and have it continue to evolve. And so at this point, 6 months in from our paid launch, so we're still pretty new. And we've got some very, very engaged users and others that are less engaged. So I still think I'm very much in this learning cycle of what is working, what isn't working. And by the way, anyone who's testing it out and you are listening to this, I love feedback. So feedback can be even, something you might consider brutal, like please bring it. I am ready to hear all of it. I think feedback is like a gift. And I think both in our personal and career world, feedback is something that can help you adjust and grow. And anyway, so I'm still in this kind of evolution stage. I think my why is all about how do we get more women's voices heard, right? So coming from coming from those women's group, that was something that I really recognized that women's voices are so often not celebrated, not highlighted. Our accomplishments aren't front and center. So many places, whether it's a conference, whether it's like LinkedIn top voices, are all defaulting to being male dominated. And it isn't because we don't have amazing things to say. It's not because we're not ambitious. It's not because we're not great leaders. So that's really what I want to bring to life, is this idea of each of us contributing to this, women's voices being featured more prominently. And yeah, and so again, so with the business, we're in this like adjustment stage. I love that we have the networking events like the one that you attended, and we also have some other events, and those are really an amazing opportunity also to find collaborators, to give each other feedback. We have this advisory circle style meeting where you can bring any issues you're having and others help you kind of workshop that. We co-work together. So yeah, so we have the platform piece and the community piece, and really even understanding the right balance between those and what's working the most for people. That's where we're at.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, I've had the opportunity to be exposed to the networking. It's really intimate, really cool. I really love that. And even have had one-on-ones, including you and creating other collaborative opportunities there. So you
Wonderful.
shared that there are the events, the advisory piece, and the component. Talk to us a little bit more about the software. What will
Mhm.
individuals, women that join Hype HQ, what will they also be able to do with the software piece?
Yeah. So you log on, and then the first thing that you see is basically a stream of requests. So if you were to jump in and say, okay, I just released my latest podcast episode, please, comment, listen, distribute it, reshare it, and someone else would. So anyway, so you see a stream of requests like that coming from members. And then there's a link, so you can follow that link and check out the content that they're talking about, or if it's a LinkedIn post. I think that's something that's seeing a lot of traction right now, is a lot of people are building their leadership on LinkedIn and building their brands. And I know you are as well. So, and I so I'm one of, they say a lot of founders create the problem, or like they're solving the problem for themselves. So that was me as well. And so once you go and you follow, you check out that content and you engage in a meaningful way. And I think this is a key piece, is that, for example, on LinkedIn, they really feature posts that have more conversation style engagement. And so when you get really meaningful engagement, it might look like, really talking about like, this point you mentioned really rings true for me, da 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 da. So it's more conversational. And so that's what the members deliver for each other. And then you go back and you just say like, did it, basically. And then it's really very straightforward. So that's the main the meat of HypeHQ. And then there is a way for you to kind of have conversations, chats with the community, as well as a way to view our upcoming events, a member directory, and then, as I mentioned, the leaderboard of who are the top hypists of that month. So that's
That's pretty
really
cool.
the entire walkthrough. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know that your focuses are on women. Is
Mhm.
there a particular type of woman that you're looking to join this wonderful experience, or what is your target niche demographic?
Mhm.
What does that look like?
hmm So I always say it's a woman who is either building something, or wants to start building something. And by something, I mean it's content, as I mentioned, content creators, or building their personal or professional brand. So there's not really anything in terms of like what stage you are in your career. It could really, that's not as important. Age is not as important, but it's just a matter of like, are you in the mindset that you know you need to start building and putting yourself out there, being visible, and then or are you, or do you aspire to do that, and now you're using the community to kind of get you going and get you motivated to start. And that's really the key demographic.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, Polina, you determined to become that entrepreneur during COVID, which a lot of us did, to become that entrepreneur. And I know that you're still in the evolutionary stage. You're 6 months in and all of that. So as you know, entrepreneurship could be very interesting. It's not always sexy. And then again, it can be sexy as well. So, can you share with us either the most funny or the most intense behind the scenes adventure that you have experienced while you're building a HypeHQ? Either something that's most funny or something that was most intense. Take us behind the scenes and kind of share with us.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You know, so as I mentioned, there was that period where I was really trying to figure out like, what is it that I want to create that will fulfill my purpose? And at the time I was reading the book, oh my God, I can't believe the title completely escapes me, but it's basically about creativity, and by the same author who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. My God, Elizabeth. Ah, anyway, so there was something. I know I'm great at these kinds of things. I should have written that down. But one thing that she said really mobilized me. She is a best-selling author, and what she said was really interesting is that, ideas, that she believes ideas are just floating around out there, and then when they land on you, in a sense, then they're basically saying like, okay, get going, bring me to life. And then when you don't, they move on. And, and then she actually brings up examples. And I think so many of us have had this like, oh, hey, look at this new app or something. I had that idea. Or, right. So that kind of thinking of like, oh, if an idea comes to me, I better act. And so I'm going through this like year of trying to figure out what I'm doing. And then one night I have this idea, and literally the next day I was like, the book says I have to act. I have to act now. And so I was I really, I also likened myself to, how the horses, like in the horse racing, they're in that stall and they're so like, they want to go, they want to go, they want to go. So that's how I felt that whole year, because I just walked away from this career where I was busy, busy, busy all the time. Now all of a sudden I'm not doing anything. So I'm just like, I need my idea. I need to do something. And I just was like, go, right? It just, the day after, I just was like, this is it. I talked to a couple of people like, is this a stupid idea? Is this a good idea? And then within a week, I had a team of, they were contractors, but they were women who actually built, coded the platform. And I knew them because I had been mentoring them. They were women who were just starting out in tech. And I do a lot of mentoring because I know how hard it is, right? Especially if you're coming not from like a fancy school with a computer science degree. So I had these women in my circle who were already looking for work. I had this idea. I was just like, this is it. We're going. And so we built the whole thing in 6 months. And I just was probably, I don't know. I know I was pretty intense, but I was trying to really exercise all the good things I learned as a leader in really making sure I was setting everyone up for success. But that was pretty intense. I mean, I was during this time, my son also started school. It was a pretty long commute. It was like almost 40 minutes each way. And so I'd be on these like meetings and he's sitting there. And then I would arrive at the school and like in my car, I would open up my laptop and be like on meetings outside of his school, just sitting on the street. Actually, one time I left my car on and my battery died. I mean, I was just really, I was like a woman possessed. And, and then as you said, and this is the kind of thing that, again, I'd experienced during my career, right? I worked at Disney, I worked at ESPN, and we built big things. We had launch, all that stuff really energized me. It was like a second nature to me. And I really enjoyed it. And then it was like the moment of truth, right? Like really when you launch, that's such a vulnerable time. And I'm sure you've experienced that feeling too, where it's time for your baby to, out of the nest. And oh, that really, those were the least sexy times of my entrepreneurial journey, when you just feel like so like raw and exposed and so worried to fail and all those things. So it's an interesting journey, entrepreneurship. I knew, they say highs and lows, but whoa, some of those lows, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely can get rather interesting, especially when you're creating, like you're saying, you're creating something, you're birthing this baby, you're putting it out into the world, and you never know how it's going to go.
Right.
And then sometimes you got to go back into the lab and and
Mm-hmm.
redo and adjust and all of that and throw it back out there to see how it's going to work. But there is something very exuberating about it
Yes.
that almost make you not want to go back to anything else. That as much as it can be very unsexy, there's an appeal to it that makes you not want to ever be bound to somebody else's mission, that you really are married to this particular mission and you want to push it forward, and because you believe in it, but you also believe that what it has to offer will help others to succeed with their
Mm-hmm.
goals and their objectives as well. So thank you for taking us behind
100%.
that curtain. One of the things I'm really interested in, Polina, especially as you're in this evolutionary stage, the Fact Picture platform is designed for women who are building something, whether it's a brand or they're building a platform. I think somewhere in the back of our heads, I don't know if it's something that we're programmed for, that there is a sense of competition that should be kind of built in when you have business leaders engaging with other business leaders and different things like that. As you're building this community, do you see much of that? Have you seen much of that as far as that competitive feel, or do you really see entrepreneurs um, really learning how to collaborate and how to be great referrals and great support systems for their fellow entrepreneurs? What do you see the most as you're in your evolutionary stage as far as when people are engaging?
Yeah, this is a great question, because we are in again, like a society that wants us to feel that sense of scarcity, right? And for many reasons, because when we're feeling that fear and anxiety of like, is someone going to take my piece, or is there enough to go around? Then we're better consumers, right? Like we're always buying stuff. So this is why I think our society points us in that way. But in reality, the strength of community over competition is, it's well documented. And so to me, really, actually, one of our core values is community over competition. And to me, it's back to that same idea where 1 and 1 equals 3, right? Even if someone is doing the same thing that you're doing, having a collaborative like an event or something with them is actually beneficial to both of you. There's really no downside, and really exploring like, why would you think someone who is even doing something very similar, why would you edge them out rather than connect with them, learn from each other, say, let's have a networking event that we co-brand, that you bring your community, I'll bring my community, they're going to benefit because they meet more people. There's really enough to go around. Like I love it when they say, it's not pie, it's not like, what is that saying where it's not like pie, that it's not, let's grow the pie instead of feel like, oh, my piece makes your piece smaller. So I think that's very like old timey thinking, but it still definitely exists, right? It definitely exists. I think we're in an age where hopefully we're evolving away from that and we're really understanding that there really is enough to go around. And I think
Absolutely.
especially for women, I think, this is like, it's funny, I'm actually posting about this like tomorrow, but that there's this, it's a real tool that the patriarchy has of pitting women against each other. This is one of the oldest tricks in that playbook, is that if we see each other as competition or as enemies, then it, it keeps us it keeps us kind of like smaller and focused on fighting each other instead of joining together to share our power and grow our power exponentially.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do believe that concept is starting to die because there is plenty of
Yeah.
room for all of us.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so, as you continue to evolve in your organizations, what tools and techniques are you using? And I know you've already mentioned about your advisory council and your networking and all of that, and encouraging meaningful engagement on each other's information that they share. What other tools and methods are you also using to establish more trust, not only with your users, with you, but even amongst each other? What other tools or methods are you using to establish that trust?
Yeah. And trust is so important, right? I think now we're in this day and age, because so many things are coming at us, so much misinformation, people are selling to us all day long. So I think trust is more meaningful than ever before, in establishing communities, or even like paying relationships with someone. And so for me, I really like to set the stage with authenticity. I mean, this is one of my core values, and I think that those are the kind of spaces that I like to create, because I know when I lead with that, people then respond in kind. And so when we're even, again, then working that you attended, just really being ourselves and being more transparent and authentic, I think creates that trust. And and for me, I also always talk about what motivated me to get here. So I think that's really, it's clear to those listening that I'm passionate about these things. I'm being authentic about that, and I think all of that builds trust.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Polina, as we prepare to downshift in our conversation, I'm really enjoying our conversation on today.
Me
As you
too.
know, absolutely. Now, earlier in our conversation, you mentioned that you're the kind of leader that likes to connect, that you are that connector. And as you know, for my organization, with Teresa K Page LLC, I am passionate about employing love as that ultimate success factor, to renew women's leadership mindset with fresh fire and purpose. So I honestly and truly believe that love, the effective power of love, is a game changer for us. And it does give us a competitive edge, I believe,
Mhm.
where we are innovative in business. We can be powerful in leadership. We can be fully present for our team and our stakeholders, as well as knowledgeable in our industries, and benevolent in our community service. So understanding that love can be that game changer for us, even in business. How would you say that love has tangibly shaped you as that leader that has the ability to connect others? How would you say that love has shaped you, as a leader?
Yeah, and it's been such a big part of it for me, and I love the way that you phrased that. I Going all the way back to those women in tech meetings, I just honestly, I just felt really just a lot of love for these other women, that I could see myself in their stories, and I can see how much we carry, in the world, how much we take on, how many things, how hard someone has to fight to be successful as a woman, because in so many ways the cards are stacked against us. And I just honestly, I could just see each of these women with their integrity and their work ethic and their, caring for their families at the same time, and just doing it all. Actually, it makes me emotional to think about it, because that is such a that's still true in my community. When I see someone that I can tell that, they're trying to really build something that is going to be for their family, something that connects with their values, something that takes so much courage. All of these things just really speak to me so much. So I would say it's been a huge, I don't think I would be here, and I don't think I would have built this at all if I wasn't like, I see you and I want you to, I want to be part of your success. I want to see how I can give and help you create like that love that's going to make you feel like your life is complete. I mean, honestly, it really is something that makes me emotional to think about it. I literally can see like these like shiny eyes of these women from those first few meetings. And I mean, I was hooked.
That's amazing. That's awesome. And how would you say that you want your son or even future generations to benefit from the work that you're building today?
Well, I'm seriously hoping that to be raising a feminist. I hope some woman in the future says "Good job, mom" to me. That's. But seriously, in terms of what I'm building, I think that if we can really start thinking of how we can first step into our power, right? Not deny it, not hide it, but also use it for each other, and how it comes back to us, and how it has this like network and exponential effect. And so if I can create, actual success stories between the women I mentor or the women who are part of my community, that to me is like each one of them is uh, they also kind of reverberate, right? Each one of them has a network effect. Each life that I touch then allows them to touch other lives. But I think really this idea, if somehow by my last on this earth, I can see that this kind of like women competing with each other and trying to undercut each other isn't a thing anymore, then I would love to feel like that was I contributed in some small part to that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Polina, as we prepare to wrap up, I'm thinking about those women that, and as well as our brothers, our men as well,
Mm-hmm.
that may be in a space where you once were, where where you're in a space you no longer believe in the mission or the vision of your current employer and all of that, and you really do have there's something that's already pulling at you, that energetic pull, but you just haven't taken the courage to make that leap or to make that decision for one reason or another. What tip, what encouragement or resource would you give for someone who definitely has a dream career, or at least visions of a dream career, or visions to start a dream business? What tip or encouragement or what resource would you give them to help them to turn that dream into a reality?
Yeah, the thing that I would say is that is, for more than 2 years, this was like my word that I was always repeating to myself, and that word is trust. And so really trust that you wouldn't have this idea if you weren't capable of it, and that trust that you're so much more capable than you realize. I mean, honestly, if someone asked my 25-year-old self if I was capable of this, I mean, my God, I had no idea. So each one of us has these reserves and resourcefulness and this courage and this power that we may not even recognize or may not be tapping into. So really trust that you have that. And so I always encourage people to come from that mindset and then take the leap if your life circumstances allow it.
Awesome. Now, what about those who are already living the dream? They've already taken that leap. They've made that trust. They bought into the idea and they made the idea happen. But they're feeling a little bit stuck and they're feeling a
Yeah.
little bit frustrated as entrepreneurship can get sometimes. What tip, encouragement, or resource would you give to them?
Well, I feel that. I feel that deeply. And, sometimes there is this sense of like, are we on the right path, or should we give up, or things aren't happening as fast as we can. So, I'm also living that. And so for me, I want to I want to believe in the journey and see how it unfolds, right? So for me, there's this sense of like, okay, if I don't give this my all, how will I know that how this story is going to end? So for me, it's murky, right? There's no one gives us any guarantees, no one gives us a sure thing, but would I rather just keep recommitting to doing what I aligns with me every single day, and working my way through those tough times with the support of communities. It's like, coming back to community. I think that is the thing. Like, continue to recommit, don't lose hope, find people, a community who are doing the same things, so you can feel like you're not alone, and just going. And I'll be right there with you. I'm going to keep on going.
I love that. Keep going and recommitting to that mission every single day. I absolutely
Yeah.
love that. So, Polina, you have a complimentary gift to our listening audience. It is March and it's Women's History Month. So, in recognition of Women's History Month, you're offering our listening audience something amazing. Tell us about your complimentary gift.
Yes. So we always have a 14-day trial at HypeHQ, and that's because you have to kind of experience the what it's like, and you have to really dive in and take the time to experience it to know the value. And so now we're offering, besides that, an extra free month, and that's because, again, for Women's History Month, this is when I want to make sure that we're taking time to have our voices be heard and recommitting to supporting other women. And so this, when you sign up with the code IWD 2025, you will get, after the 14-day trial, an additional free month to just get in there, support other women, and get the support you also need.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for providing this for our listening audience. We're going to make sure that we have this information in the bio. Well, Polina, it has been a great honor of mine to have this inspiring conversation with you on today. Thank you for bringing us into your world and having this conversation with us. So what are your last words to take us forward into the second quarter of 2025 and beyond?
I love it. I love it. And thank you, by the way, for inviting me. This has just been so fun. I love this kind of conversational tone to all this. And honestly, my answer for everything is community now. This is something that I've learned through all of my different experiences that I've talked about, but in the end, it comes down to being surrounded by people who care about your success, who can inspire you, who can make you feel a sense of connection that we all crave, and that you can also learn from. They can also keep you accountable and, make you reach a little bit higher. So that's, for me, is community. If you are not part of a community, if you don't have a community, find one. Join us at HypeHQ. Join some of the other communities that are out there. There's a lot in that space, thankfully, because we do all need it.
Absolutely. And I love what you mentioned earlier about one of your main pillars is community over competition. So,
Yes.
audience, as you heard her say, find a community, whether it's with HypeHQ or some other space where you feel loved, you can learn from others, and also so you could be held to account as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
As well.
Exactly. It'll help you reach a little bit higher when you've got others that are, egging you on.
Well, ladies, we want to thank you for joining us. Remember to connect with Polina and her free gift by visiting her website at hypehq.io. You may email her at support@hypehq.io and be sure to connect with her on social media via LinkedIn at polina.ruvinsky. And be sure to please take advantage of Polina's complimentary gift. In recognition of Women's History Month, Polina is offering our listening audience a free month for HypeHQ, and that's in addition to the 14-day trial. So be sure to use the discount code at IWD2025 when signing up on Polina's website. We will put this information in the bio. Now, leaders, do you have an important story to tell that would inspire others to step into their dream career or business? If so, check the bio to learn how to become one of my special guests. Now, it is time to write your book. Are you an aspiring author ready to make the book that you've been wanting to write a priority but not sure where to start? Or are you a published author ready to broaden the conversation of your existing book but don't know how? If so, you are cordially invited to join me virtually via Cisco WebEx at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, April 8th, and on Tuesday, April 22nd, for documenting and delivering your God-given message to the world. This 90-minute leadership development webinar is designed to help aspiring and published 21st century writers and authors to prepare, write, publish, and distribute their book, as well as broaden the power of their book to create new mediums and streams of wealth. So registration is now open. To learn more and to register, visit teresakpage.squarespace.com/leadership-development. Together, we will simplify your mission by utilizing what is available at your fingertips. So see the information in the bio. So we want to say thank you for joining in for another episode of the Women's Leadership Mindset series. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, here's to the journey, and let's move forward.